Just hours after US President Donald Trump called off what he described as a major military strike against Iran, fresh diplomatic efforts are now underway to prevent another crisis in the Persian Gulf. According to Israeli media reports, international mediators are attempting to revive a memorandum of understanding signed between Washington and Tehran last month. The primary objective is to guarantee safe navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's busiest and most strategically important maritime choke points. Trump announced that the decision followed assurances from Tehran that it would reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. Nearly one-fifth of the world's oil supplies and a significant portion of global liquefied natural gas exports pass through this corridor every day. Any disruption to shipping in the strait immediately sends shockwaves through global energy markets, driving up oil prices and raising fears of inflation across the world. That is precisely why the latest negotiations are attracting enormous international attention. According to the reports, the revived memorandum would require Iran to keep the Strait of Hormuz fully open for 60 days without charging any transit fees to commercial vessels. The agreement is reportedly similar to the framework negotiated previously between Washington and Tehran. However, that earlier understanding eventually collapsed because both sides interpreted its provisions differently. Earlier, at the time of first agreement, President Trump argued that the agreement effectively guaranteed long-term freedom of navigation. Iran, on the other hand, insisted that the arrangement never surrendered its sovereign authority over the strategic waterway. Tehran maintained that after the 60-day period, it would continue to retain full control over shipping regulations in accordance with its interpretation of international law. That disagreement eventually derailed implementation of the memorandum.
What firm did you call off the strikes last night?
I was asked to by Saudi Arabia, by UAE, by Qatar, and by Iran. We were all set to go, just about at this time right now, and it would have been a massive attack. We're all set to go, but when the allies ask to call it off, you got to sort of say, well, let's see. And the reason they asked is I think there's a deal. There's a deal on Hormuz, and then there will be a deal on the nuclear, or you might call it the denuclearization of Iran. I call it the denuclearization of Iran.
So what should we
So
expect?
we're holding it. We'll just see. We can do it anytime we want. But we were asked by the three primary groups. We were also asked by Iran, very strongly actually. They said, we'd like to make it.
Now, mediators hope to bridge those differences before tensions escalate once again. Another key player in the latest negotiations is Oman. Iranian state media reports indicate that officials from Tehran and Muscat are in the final stages of discussing a joint operational mechanism for managing maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Although few details have been released, Oman has long served as a trusted intermediary between Iran and Western governments. Qatar has also emerged as a central mediator. According to reports, Doha held intensive discussions over the weekend with Iranian, American, and Omani officials. Qatari diplomats reportedly informed President Trump that additional time was needed to complete negotiations before any military action was launched. Later, according to the same reports, Qatar conveyed that Iran had accepted a proposal related to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Saudi Arabia also played a significant diplomatic role. Reports indicate that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman personally telephoned President Trump, urging restraint and encouraging diplomacy instead of military escalation. Shortly afterward, Trump announced on Truth Social that he had halted the planned strike. In the same message, the US president claimed that Iran had agreed not only to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but also to conclude its nuclear program. However, those claims were almost immediately rejected by Tehran. Iranian military officials described Trump's statements as false. A source associated with Iran's negotiating delegation also denied that any final agreement had been reached. Speaking to Iran's semi-official Fars news agency, the source stated clearly that there was no agreement on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. That public contradiction highlights the enormous gap that still exists between both sides. Despite the conflicting statements, one important development stands out. Neither the United States nor Iran carried out military strikes overnight. For now, diplomacy appears to have replaced immediate military confrontation. Meanwhile, another report is shedding light on differences among America's regional allies. According to the Wall Street Journal, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates took sharply different positions during recent consultations with Washington. Saudi Arabia reportedly encouraged diplomatic engagement and urged the United States to avoid military escalation. The UAE, however, reportedly argued that stronger military pressure was necessary to change the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' calculations. The report claims Emirati officials suggested that Washington should consider taking direct control of the Strait of Hormuz and even keep broader military options on the table. Those reports underline an important reality. Even among America's closest Gulf partners, there is no complete consensus on how to deal with Iran. The stakes could hardly be higher. Every day, dozens of oil tankers carrying crude from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and other Gulf producers transit this narrow passage. Any prolonged closure would have immediate consequences for global oil prices, shipping insurance costs, international trade, and energy security. Europe would also feel the economic impact of any sustained disruption. For that reason, every diplomatic breakthrough or setback is watched closely by governments, financial markets, and energy companies around the world.
If you like this video, then like, share, and subscribe to Mirror Now.